I'm really struggling to be candid why this even needs to be licensed. A 15-year-old girl can do this. She's never had a chemical burn. A bad haircut can be fixed in 2 weeks. And a bad set of nails can be fixed in a month. I mean, so I'm struggling with what is the necessity of even having 1,000 hours.
So what you just saw was a state representative mansplaining to a hairstylist what the beauty industry is and how it works, and that basically her job's not important. Today we are going to go through this clip that was circulating, especially amongst the industry, point by point, and discuss why this is such a naive way of thinking when it comes to the hair industry and cosmetology as a whole. Don't get me wrong, I don't feel like I'm curing cancer. I don't feel like my job is that much more important than anybody else's job, but the amount of disrespect that still to this day is seen when it comes to this industry, which unfortunately is a side effect to it being a predominantly female industry. It is easily looked down upon. And because the point of entry is pretty easy in the grand scheme of things, states go out of their way to make it more complicated than it needs to be. There's a whole conversation to be had about licensing and licensure, and we're not going to get into all of that today. I think it's important to know that proper education behind chemical services, knowing various health concerns, how to identify chemical burns, how to prevent allergies, chemical burns, how to take note if someone is having a reaction to a product. All of these elements of knowledge that are learned through either your cosmetology program or post-education. I'm sorry, stylists spend thousands of dollars a year to continue to learn and train themselves. And, we spend nights after work really diving into like the products we're using and the color theory and the makeup of the actual color that we're using. Like we can get kind of nerdy over here. There just needs to be a larger conversation around education, certifications, and cosmetology as a whole not being respected in the way it deserves to be, considering we are doing controlled science experiments on people's bodies that can permanently alter and permanently harm somebody. Licensing requirements have been up for debate across all 50 states for the last few years. There's a bigger conversation to be had about, do we actually need licenses to be cosmetologists? And I see both sides to that coin. At the end of the day, the government gets to make money off of it, so I'm surprised they want to get rid of an entire branch of income that they get, but I'm not going to complain if they decide to do away with it. There are things that can happen, and there are too many licensed professionals who people have trusted that because they are licensed and because they're experienced and because they are a professional, that they will not do any harm or ill intent to a client. And I've seen time and time again on TikTok, on Reels, here on YouTube, situations where that's not the case. And unethical estheticians, unethical hairstylists, unethical nail techs. There's just a bigger conversation that needs to be had around, I guess, the difference between professionalism and licensure. Like I said, that's another conversation for another day. Today, I just want to focus on this statement made in this video. We'll kind of go back and forth on different elements of the video and things that he says, but I guess we will initially just start with what is the state board and how does licensing work? So the way it stands right now, there is not one uniform accreditation as far as hours for you to receive a cosmetology license. It quite literally varies state to state. For me personally, I live in New York State, so I only needed 1,000 hours to be qualified to sit for my state boards. And then at the time that I got licensed, because I am now a dinosaur in this industry, you would apply for your temporary license when you graduated from your program. So you could start an assistancing program or an apprenticeship or something. And then you would schedule your in-person sit-down exam. I think it was 100 questions, written exam. Nothing super critical about the actual process of doing hair. It was more like health, safety, science questions, sanitization questions, stuff like that. How to identify any infectious things, but we legally are not allowed to diagnose them. So we have to, in a roundabout way, say
okay, this is what's going on. You should consult a doctor when you leave here.
So you would do your written exam, and then you would get notified whether you passed or failed it, and then they would give you a time and date to go sit for your practical. And that was the hands-on portion where you bring in a mannequin head and then there's different things you do. It's like a few hours and then you will get your notice whether or not you passed or failed within like the next week or two. I think they get notified kind of quick now. I don't know. So yes, the State Board of Cosmetology. This is a government regulatory agency that ensures public safety by setting licensing, sanitation, and education standards for professionals in cosmetology, aesthetics, barbering, nail techs. They are the ones who administer the exams. They are the ones who set the criteria for the schools. They perform inspections and investigate any violations to what the set of standards is that they require. They also define the requirements for cosmetology schools, salons, and licensure, protecting the public by ensuring licensees are competent and follow safety procedures. In my opinion, there are pros and cons to the state board and licensing, as I have said, but that's another conversation for another day. What we're focusing on today is this video and this ass man. I'm going to break down point by point why, at the bare minimum, training when it comes to cosmetology needs to have some sort of framework and standard.
You've got colors and you got facials that you get under this license. All of those my 15-year-old teenage daughter does at home.
Correct.
I walked in last night to a room to chat with her and she's in there doing her own nails. I'm really struggling to be candid why this even needs to be licensed. A 15-year-old girl can do this. She's never had a chemical burn. She changes her hairstyle all the time. She changes her nails all the time. She does facials frequently. But we're telling people that you have to have, right now, 1,600 hours in order to do this.
So his first argument is that his 15-year-old daughter can do these things. She does them on herself at home. As somebody who was that 15-year-old girl who would be dyeing her hair in the middle of the night, I don't condone that to other 15-year-olds. You are still a child handling strong chemicals that you don't understand how they work. And I believe the stylist makes that point at the end of this clip. Also, your 15-year-old daughter might be doing those things on herself, but that doesn't mean that she knows how to do them safely, correctly. Don't get me wrong. YouTube University can teach you a lot, but she does not know how to do it safely, correctly, or safely and correctly on another person, or God forbid if something does go wrong, she doesn't know how to identify what went wrong or why, or have the urgency to understand like, oh, that's actually not normal. Please go to a doctor. Anything could happen. Your daughter giving herself a facial at home is not the same thing as going to an esthetician to get a facial. Your daughter doing her Sephora Drunk Elephant skincare routine in her bedroom is not the same thing as booking an appointment with an esthetician for a proper facial with a chemical peel, with steam, with proper dermaplaning, those little eyebrow razors that we all buy and use to shave our faces. Like, that's not dermaplaning. We are just shaving our faces. Sorry to break it to you. Like, guilty as well, but like, that's what you're doing. Your daughter's not doing like acrylic nails at home, or at least I hope she's not. That would be wild, because then I'm also like, there's ventilation problems in her bedroom doing these things. Again, as somebody who's guilty of doing the most insane at-home things when I was younger, I'm speaking from experience. There are so many things that could go wrong. The amount of times I've gotten wax all over my bedroom and like the wax pots exploded in my room because I forgot it was on. There's so many things that can go wrong when you're doing it on yourself at home with zero actual knowledge. It's more so like the knowledge of what to do when things go wrong that's important, more so than like, can you do the thing? Doing the thing's not the hard part. That's honestly the easy part. Anyway, probably gonna be a little heated and sassy in this one, so if you enjoyed my Hair by Chrissy video, it's gonna probably be the same energy today. 1,600 hours is more hours than I was required to have for my state licensing. I will tell you, from going through cosmetology school to working in my first salon, even if you go to school, even if you get licensed, you're not that equipped going to like your standard local cosmetology school. I don't know how it works if you go to like Aveda or Paul Mitchell or something. I'm just speaking from a vocational school standpoint. When they teach you what you need to know for the boards, they set you free once you get your license and say, good luck. I had to learn a lot more on the job than I ever learned in my program. They just teach you what you need to know to meet the regulatory protocol that they require. And that's it. Reducing hours is kind of scary. Licensing aside, to have a protocol of education with the hours that I had in my 2-year program, because I did a half-day vocational program through my high school. Through those 2 years, I still didn't feel like I knew what the hell I was doing. To be thrown on a salon floor and basically given somebody's head of hair and like, good luck with minimal training. I just didn't. To argue that like you don't need as many hours that are already the hour requirements, yikes. Just yikes. So hypothetically speaking, if they were to eradicate the state board and eradicate cosmetology licensing, you would still need some type of training and education. And it takes more than 1,000 hours to become an expert at something. What is this guy even saying, honestly? Like, I don't understand even in that aspect. If licensing wasn't even on the table at this point, you would still have to learn those skills and how to correctly do them on another person and how to identify if they're having an allergic reaction, if there is a chemical interaction happening. Have you ever seen what it looks like when there's a chemical interaction when someone's been box dyeing their hair at home, didn't tell you about that one time they bought ionic color from Sally's, put it on their hair, you're trying to do highlights and all of a sudden it's snap, crackle, pop up in their hair? Do you know what to do in that situation? Probably not.
A bad haircut can be fixed in 2 weeks, and a bad set of nails can be fixed in a month. I mean, so I'm struggling with what is the necessity of even having 1,000 hours.
Okay, that argument is just dumb. So he said a bad haircut can be fixed in 2 weeks. If you're a man, sure, of course. For a woman, it's not even about the bad haircut. And I'm not just going to like gender stereotype here, but I will say on average, because I predominantly work with women, hair is so much of our identities, whether you want to openly admit that or not. As silly as it can be at times, a bad haircut can really mess with somebody. If somebody just wanted to trim and you cut off, of course I'm wearing a dark shirt, you can kind of see where my hair is. My hair is to here. If I say I only want it cut to here and you decide you want to cut it to here, I'm now losing 2 years of growth, because 2 years ago my hair was this length. So I am now losing 2 years of growth that I have done. I would be pissed. That's not a 2-week fix. That is thousands of dollars in hair extensions that I'm going to be paying for to get my hair back to this length. It's not a 2-week fix. If you're a man, sure, you're getting a buzz cut. Yeah, your hair grows back in 2 weeks. Men typically on average are getting their haircut every 2 weeks, but that is a dumb statement to make, period, point blank. Also, bad nails, horrible example, because I have seen the worst of the worst. Trigger warning if you don't like graphic things, because I will just throw some photos up here. I've seen what happens when nail things go wrong, and sometimes it can lead to hospitalization, and in very severe situations, it could be an infection so bad that it unalives somebody. So no, it's not like a hee hee ha ha, just wait 2 weeks and it'll be better thing. If something actually serious goes wrong, you can severely injure somebody to the point of it cannot be corrected. And then what?
Because we were told these exact same arguments when we lowered it from 2,000 to 1,600.
Oh, they already had lowered. So I guess context. So this is a representative in Boise, Idaho. So I guess Idaho had 2,000 hours. They had already reduced their standard from 2,000 hours to 1,600 hours. And now they're bringing it up for debate again to further decrease the hours down to 1,000, cutting the training in half. That's wild.
If you went to Sally's and you bought bleach and 40 volume lightener and you let your daughter wreak havoc on your wife, I would be very scared to see what the end result would be, because she would have no knowledge of what to do or how to handle it.
So yeah, she has a great point there, because she wouldn't know what to do or how to handle that. Like I just said, you can severely injure somebody by doing a chemical service incorrectly. Sure, with a haircut, it's not going to be like an end all be all necessarily, but it's like you're also affecting somebody's self-esteem, which you can't put a dollar amount on, and it can't be corrected overnight. You're also building trust with people, and you're losing that trust every time you screw something up. I am an advocate for education for industry professionals. There needs to be standards in education, but I don't necessarily think licensing needs to be a thing. It can be a certification. It can be like a whatever. I don't think you need to spend what it takes to go to community college to get a cosmetology license. Like I said, I did my program for free in high school. This is just like very ignorant. I'm like kind of at a loss for words, I guess, at this point. And to the stylist counterpoint, yeah, if his daughter was to take 40 volume developer, which is second highest peroxide that we can use to develop color with and develop lightener with, if you were to take that and throw it on your wife's hair, say your wife's already a blonde and you throw 40 volume on her hair, she gonna be bald. I'm not gonna lie. Her hair is going to melt off. What are you gonna do after that? Take her to get a wig? Tell her.
Just wait 2 weeks, you'll have hair again.
And in that situation too, if she was to put it on her roots, you can damage somebody's follicle and the hair will not grow back. Will it be the end of the world? No. But could it be the end of somebody's world? Yes. There's so much emotional weight in this industry with our clients. For us, it's an energy exchange, and also it's our hair, which is so much of our identity. There's so much history in just hair across every culture. Sorry for the change. My camera just overheated. So I just wanted to wrap up this final point before I forgot. Ugh, I'm getting heated. But all of that to say, it's an ignorant statement, point blank, period. There's definitely an overhaul that needs to be done. There's a change that needs to be made, but I don't think this is the approach that needs to be taken. I think we could do a better job overall as a whole, and I don't think this is the way to go about it. Yeah, I wish I had something more insightful to say. I'm not super well versed in how like the education side of the industry works, but honestly, there's so much independent education now that like you genuinely could just get like a bunch of mini certifications. Like if you want to just cut hair, you could get a certification to cut hair. If you wanted a color certification, you can get all kinds of color certifications. If you want an extension certification, you can get that. If you want a braiding certification, you can get that. If you want to do like texture services, so like smoothing treatments and silk presses and relaxers and perms and all those kinds of services, you could get certified just for that. I don't think it needs to be this big overarching licensing protocol. I think we can make adjustments, and I think it's getting to the time where we should possibly do that. There is an interesting history on licensing. If you would like a deep dive on that, give this video a thumbs up, because it's, spoiler alert, rooted in racism like everything else in this country. I'm like at a loss for words on what to say to wrap this video up. Weigh in the comments. What are your thoughts, whether you're an industry professional or not? Seeing as just in that situation that they already have cut the hours in half, it seems like it's moving towards just no licensing altogether. And I guess, what are your thoughts on that? If there was no licenses for a hairstylist, would you be comfortable? Would you go see a stylist that wasn't licensed? Open door for a full conversation. I have like mixed opinions on this entire topic. I'm just always interested to see how things move and evolve. Like I said, it's definitely time for things to evolve. It's just a question of how and how to go about doing it. And I don't think an extreme reaction is the way to go. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe. I post videos here every Sunday. I will see you next week. Bye, guys.